Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, 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 everyone. So we are now at day number three. Day number three. And hi, my name is BK. In case we are not currently friends and you just happen to hop onto this live stream, just a little bit about myself. I just started a 100-day challenge so that I can push myself in a certain arena, a certain direction. And I gave myself a challenge of doing 100 days of live streaming. So if you're catching this is day number three, and hopefully we'll be going on for another 97 other days, right? So it is currently 10 p.m. for me right now, where I am. I'm actually a Singaporean, but I'm currently in living in KL at the moment. So this is kind of like the time that I've chosen to go live, right? So first day was just to get it out the door, and I didn't know I was rambling on for about 10 minutes or so. Yesterday, there was again some improvement. I started to do some show notes, and today I also did show notes today as well. So I kind of know at least what I want to talk about. And I think yesterday I kind of alluded to the fact that I'm guessing my biggest challenge for the next some 90 something days actually would be content, right? So the whole idea of this is going to be interesting because of content. Now, I did talk about what are some of the things I will talk about in day one and also day two as well. Some of it will obviously be including things like tech stuff, for example, like how to actually do something like this. I've been fortunate because of this current situation, kind of forced myself to transition to a lot more online stuff. So I've been fortunate to set up these things here and also learn a few things about how to transition, and hopefully I can share some of that with some of you who may want to know more about that, right? But today I just want to go through and say that it's not entirely going to be a tech show, because yes, this morning one of my friends messaged me and said, "Hey, I saw you yesterday, talking about gear and sharing tech tips and stuff." Yes, I will do some of that, but it is not supposed to be a pure tech review or tech gear kind of show. There are plenty of those shows out there, right? So I don't really want to repeat that. It is in a way more of my personal journey. So just 100 days, and then let's see where it goes from there, right? So tonight, I actually kind of want to move away from that tech stuff for a short while and talk a little bit about, so what is exactly the motivation behind me doing this, right? And the answer is actually just uh, the concept of discipline, right? And two things that happened recently that kind of motivated me. So I just want to share some of these things. Um, First one is actually I came across something called 75 hard. 75, the numerical number 75, hard as in difficult, right? By this person called Andy Frisella. So you can check it up and just Google and look for it. And he has a very interesting program where he kind of talks about how um, in today's current climate, right? A lot of times we actually lack discipline. We lack discipline in many ways. In fact, there are many personal development uh, coaches or gurus in that sense, right? Who talk about like if you want to aim for better things in life, or you want to uh, aim to become a better version of yourself, right? Actually, this discipline is quite an important thing, right? And that's so you can go and check it up. Check out this 75 Hard by Andy Frisella. Now, just a quick overview, because he actually has a very nice write-up and a website. You can go and check it out. But essentially, if you join that program, and it's actually a free program to join, right? You just have to commit to doing a series of activities every single day, and some of them are pretty challenging. Some of them are very challenging, in fact, but some of them are simple ones. But the challenging part about what he wants you to do is that once you commit to doing it, right, you have to fulfill all the, I think it's 5 or 6 items, can't remember all of them, right? And I also don't want to spoil the surprise for you. You can go and find out yourself, right? So if you commit to taking part in that program, you have to do every single one of those items every single day without fail, from the moment you wake up until the very last moment before you sleep. Okay. And if you fail to miss even one of them, then you got to reset the whole thing, right? So it's kind of like you can't say that, oh, I missed one part of one item, and then I got to I'm okay. No, it doesn't work that way. That's for his program, right? So why aren't I doing that instead of just doing this? For a few reasons. Some of the things that he advocates doing, I can't really do currently at this point in time. So I think it's going to be a bit tough. Um, so I am just borrowing his idea and doing something similar for myself. Basically setting certain challenges in place for myself. So this live stream thing is one part of the challenges I'm giving myself. Okay, the rest of it is kind of personal, so I won't share everything, right? But that is one of the reasons why it got me started on this idea. Okay, so feel free to go and check it out. I think it's fascinating and it's interesting, and they even have a club where people can proudly belong to and call themselves people who have completed this 75 hard. And trust me, it's quite challenging. Okay. But after the whole program, obviously you kind of elevate yourself to a different level, because you kind of realize that, hey, actually I am able to do something more disciplined, right? Or I actually have that discipline, and that's going to do wonders for you in other areas of your life. So do check it out. Now, of course, the other motivation behind why I'm doing this is because I'm also listening now to a very good Audible. I do a lot of Audible learning and listening. It's by Jim Rohn, called The Power of Ambition. So again, inside there, one of the key uh, key principles that he talks about, towards ambition, to help in ambition, is actually discipline, right? So these two things coupled together kind of spurred me on to want to do this. So this is why I'm doing this, right? Now, I also, perhaps over the course of these live streams, I might share certain things that are, like I said in the first episode and the first day and second day as well. It is also kind of like a bit like a video diary for myself. So sometimes I may share certain things that are more personal, and I kind of always believe that sometimes when we share like that, it can also help some other people along the way. So, but if you are not comfortable to hear some of these things, it's not going to be very, very personal, don't worry. I mean, or maybe not today, maybe on the 100th day, I may share something very personal. But if that is uncomfortable to you, I apologize in advance, right? Now, so for myself, as I look back at this whole exercise, right, it's not that I am not disciplined. I am disciplined in some areas, but I also feel that I can be a lot more disciplined, right? For example, like I have weaned off alcohol for 3 years already, right? So no matter what other people tell me, I don't touch alcohol at all, And sometimes my friends, when they see me do that, they say that I can't believe you are that disciplined, It's like sometimes we go out with friends and then they just say, just have one beer, lah. And then I always say that if I start with one, then I'll break the chain of what I've been doing all along, right? But it's not because of any kind of addiction or anything like that. It's just that it was just for purely health reason. I decided to kind of cut off alcohol. And since I've done it, I've continued doing it for 3 years already, right? Another area of my life that I think I'm also quite disciplined is that when I decide to take on something, like if I'm exercising, I do make sure I stick to it, So I shared earlier on, I do 20 minutes of Tabata every day. And that is kind of like helping me to be in probably the best shape of my life for my age, right? I'm almost 50, that kind of thing. And the other thing is I'm also quite disciplined is in the diet, right? So right now I'm doing a mixture of intermittent fasting and keto diet. Maybe not so much keto nowadays, but intermittent fasting. Also sometimes switch around with alternate day fasting and stuff like that. So I can stick to it quite well, once I decided to do it, right? But at the same time, I kind of also look back at other areas of my life, and I also look back at even back in school days, right? I always kind of found that I don't really go 100%, whether is it my grades or stuff like that. I'm kind of happy when if I don't need to study so hard and I can get a good B or maybe a low A. That was always good enough. So when I look back at all these things, I think it also kind of carried me over to now, right? I kind of feel that sometimes I am not really going all out for the things I should be doing, right? It's a bit like coasting. You coast. Um, you don't kind of give 100%. And I think it took a bit of self-assessment to kind of realize that. So maybe it's afraid of being disappointed if I do go all the way and then I don't get the results I want. So I kind of say, okay, if I just get a B or just a good close high B, I'm happy. Uh, Perhaps that is why, So that was actually part of the reason why this whole exercise is I'm trying to address this area of my life, right? So committing myself to do something that can push me out of my comfort zone. 100 days is not like short, right? It's a bit longer, and being live like this and creating content and preferably maybe even content that can help people, that is not something that will be, it's a bit of a challenge, right? So that's what I want to do. And I think end of the day, I hope in 100 days I can see a better version of myself, right? A better version of myself, right? In all areas here. Of course, because I do in my work, I do have a lot of this kind of real life presentations online and so on. I'm also hoping that will improve my presentation skills through 100 days of training, right? Now, so I'm going to share some things I learned today about discipline from this audible from Jim Rohn, right? Uh, this is something that has always stuck with me for a long time. I always find that when I share or I teach on the things that I learn myself, right? I end up learning better for myself than anything else, right? Uh, I'm not sure whether you have experienced that yourself, but you could try. So whenever you want to learn something even better for yourself, it might be good for you to try and teach it to somebody else. Because when you try and teach it to somebody else, or okay, let's not say teach, but when you share to somebody else, right? It actually reinforces your learning a lot, right? So while it may seem like I'm sharing some tips to you, in essence, I think it's reinforcing my own learning as well, right? So I'm just going to share some very interesting things I jotted down today when I listened to the Audible on self-discipline, right? Basically, it is probably one of the most important keys to the good life, right? Or to becoming a better version of yourself, right? But more important than self-discipline, uh, we need to add one word to the front of it, which is consistent self-discipline. It's just like this exercise thing that I'm doing, right? First day okay, second day okay, third day okay, but after a while, when you get into the routine, is okay. But there are some days when you wake up and you seriously do not feel like doing it, right? And if you skip one day, you'll find that the next day, the tendency to want to skip another day is highly, is very, the feeling is stronger. So it's good not to break it. So consistent self-discipline is actually very, very key, right? And in fact, consistent self-discipline is the fundamental to us mastering things like goal setting, leadership, time management skills, even parenting. Um, the thing about goal setting, right? I think a lot of times, sometimes when you hear people talk about it, they quote this very uh, almost always quoted study by Harvard, I think, that talks about how people who set their goals tend to achieve more in life, and people who don't tend to achieve less in life, right? The idea behind this is that actually setting goals is also a kind of discipline. You literally have to sit down and map out your life, and it takes effort. And sometimes not doing it is the easier thing to do, which is why oftentimes when you ask a group of people whether they set goals or not, whether they set goals that is very detailed and they map out for a period of time, right? Say a 1 year, a 5 year, and a 10 year, and maybe even a 20-year goal, right? Most people don't have that, right? Because they lack the discipline to really sit down and set the goals. So this idea about consistent self-discipline is a key to mastering these things is actually very, very true, right? And also it takes discipline to do a lot of other things as well. It takes discipline to keep trying. Sometimes when we are going for something in our lives, and it's not always smooth sailing, right? For example, if you're in a sales kind of vocation, right? It's not everybody you talk to is going to buy from you, right? But because you have chosen that kind of vocation, what happens is that it's always very easy to give up and say that no, I'm stopping. But if you have the discipline to keep trying, the chances of you succeeding is much higher, because most people actually overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can achieve in 3 years, right? So it takes consistent self-discipline in plugging away at something, and then you see results. It may not come straight away, but if you don't give up, you have the self-discipline to do so, then the results you want will eventually come to you, right? Another thing is it also takes self-discipline to manage your relationships, like to be totally honest with people, to be able to admit errors, to be consistent in the things you do, even things like being on time or not on time for meetings. It is a bit of a disciplined effort to do, right? I'm sure we know of friends who are always late for certain things, right? That if they can be consistently that way, it means that if they made an effort, they would have been able to be consistently early as well, or at least on time, right? So things like that, it actually requires self-discipline. Okay, it also takes discipline, obviously, to change your habit, and it's not easy because habits form over time. So if you want to change a habit, what I learned today is that you kind of need to make sure you have the discipline to change a habit. So even this live stream thing that I'm doing now, it was never a habit, right? To go online and do it every day. I know there are certain YouTubers that I've seen that do this almost every day, that they do a live stream every day. So for them, that has become a habit for them, right? So for me right now, this is day number 3. I think it will start to form, right? So day 1, there was a lot of hesitation to actually click go live. Day 2 was even harder, honestly, I tell you first, right? But today was easier. Today was easier, right? In fact, today I was waiting for the 10 o'clock and then hitting go live. And if you have been watching day 1 and day 2, and this is day 3, I'm not going to talk about it tonight, but you notice actually I'm using a slightly different platform now. So with this platform, I was able to do a bit of intro music, and then it cuts into the frame and so on, and is supposed to be able to show me messages as well, if there are any messages. But right now I don't see any. I'm not sure whether I set it up correctly, but anyway, doesn't matter, So that's what I'm trying to say, right? Today was much easier. So I think the habit forming part is there, right? So what is exactly discipline? If some of you are asking, and the definition of discipline, Jim Rohn actually gave a very good definition. He says that it's a constant awareness for the need of action, right? It's the constant awareness for the need of action and the conscious act to implement that action. That means when you are disciplined, you kind of know that there is something that you need to do, and you're consciously acting to do it, right? So that's discipline, okay? So if you want to achieve something, you know that there's something that you need to do, there's certain action you need to do, and you're consciously acting to implement it, okay? Now, then the reverse obviously is, you know that there's something that you need to do, but the act of implementing has a long time gap, right? That is actually what we commonly know as procrastination, right? So procrastination is almost the polar opposite of discipline, right? I kind of didn't think of it that way, but now that I think of it, it actually is true, right? So it is the complete opposite of discipline. So what is discipline and what is procrastination? Discipline means you inside the voice that tells you do it now, whereas the other voice tells you do it later, right? Discipline tells you to do the best to the best of your ability, right? Do it now, do it to the best of your ability. Procrastination will say, do it later, or just do enough just to get by, or just do enough just to satisfy, appearances, right? That is actually quite an interesting concept behind it, because I think in that sense, if I recall back into my school days and sometimes even now, right, this whole idea of coasting, this whole idea of not really studying 100% for my exams to get a good grade, right? It is like doing just enough. So it was actually a form of procrastination. Okay, and I think it was a good revelation in a sense. So one thing about Jim Rohn that I like a lot is that he is always very honest and always very to the point and always very truthful. And the things he says, when you really listen and learn from it, you can really it kind of hits you in the space that matters, right? But yet it is not harsh, It hits you in a space that matters, but it's not harsh. So I kind of get it now that, yeah, when I was doing those kind of things, it was a bit of procrastination. And thanks, Denise, for typing a hello. I can see that, So yeah, now I know it works. So this platform works. You can see the chat messages on the chat form here. So I will talk a bit about the platform on another episode, right? So just a last quick few things before we wrap up for today. I don't want to go too long today. I think yesterday I went a bit long. The 3 steps to discipline, to being disciplined, right? So the first step is understanding that discipline isn't the easiest option, right? Just recognizing that it is often not the easiest option to do. In fact, it's always easier to not do things, right? It's always easier not to make the bed in the morning. It's always easier not to tidy up your house. It's always easier not to wash your car, clean your apartment and stuff like that. So it's always easier not to do those things, right? But we need to understand and recognize that. And the thing is that when we give in to all these things that are easy not to do, or easier not to do these things, right? It actually will snowball and affect other areas of your life. So while you may have certain habits that are quite well established disciplines, but if you give in to all these little things that you kind of lack discipline in, then they will slowly creep into your other disciplines, and then they will take it down as well. So again, that's why I think I wanted to do this challenge for myself, right? So that is the first step towards understanding or being disciplined. Second step that he talks about is understanding that being disciplined is a full-time activity, right? Meaning you can't just choose to be disciplined one time this day and then another day you're not disciplined. It doesn't work that way, right? So you kind of need to make sure that it is a full-time activity. It basically becomes like a way of life, right? So when you live a disciplined life in all aspects of your life, it is kind of like a way of life, a code of conduct, a moral compass that you have chosen for yourself. But of course, the rewards are great, right? In that sense. So the very last step to discipline is actually very interesting. He says that, in fact, it is kind of like a philosophy or a law of life. He says that for every discipline effort, there is a multiple reward, right? For every discipline effort, there is a multiple reward. In other words, the disciplines that we incorporate into our lives, it will not just reward you based on, it's not a one-to-one linear relationship. It will normally be a exponential relationship. So for example, if just take something very simple, if you decide to discipline yourself to make sure that you're always 15 minutes punctual before a meeting, what will happen is that over time, you'll be surprised that people will start to recognize this part of you as an attribute of this person. And you never know. Sometimes certain businesses, certain people will actually want to do business with you because of this, right? So this one attribute that you have will actually bring you a multiple of rewards, right? You just wouldn't know, right? It's the same thing when you think about it this way, right? Sometimes somebody may choose not to do business with you because of this lack of discipline in, say, being punctual, right? Because he was already there, and he was actually happy to perhaps sign a deal with you or buy something that you are offering, but because you were late, and because of that, he may say, okay, this person, he may really not like people who are late, and then as a result, you kind of lost that, right? So if you made that consistent effort to be disciplined, then you will have a multiple reward, right? So this is what Dream Run says. This is actually kind of like the law of life. I think we always hear about things like, you sow what you reap, right? So in this case, it is also something very similar, because when you practice discipline, you actually will be multiply rewarded in many, many ways. Okay. Yeah. So um, just wanted to share that quick one, quick few tips about discipline. And uh, I think the challenge for me really is content for the next 97 days. But I'm happy. Today is day number 3. I got through day number 3. I also don't want to make it through every day like that as well. So again, I'm happy to share topics that you are interested in. Please feel free to let me know. Of course, for the first few episodes, probably we'll touch on some of the technical stuff, because I think some friends are quite keen on it, especially in this day and age where a lot of people are transitioning to this online setup, right? This online setup, that would be a good thing for many people. So today's setup, I think, is working okay. It is easier as well. It is just, in fact, this is through a browser. This is on a browser, and this platform I'm using is called restream.io. I will share that maybe tomorrow or another day. And it helps you to restream your single video feed to multiple platforms like YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, even some obscure, not so well-known platforms, even some Chinese platforms as well. So it's actually quite a fascinating or quite a useful um, streaming platform. And also at the same time, you can also do things like captions and graphics. You can do an overlay like this. So this is I'm sure you can see it now. So this is the platform I'm using. It's called Restream. Okay. And then of course you can just turn it off so you don't see it. So you can overlay things that are um, of course your own. Some people will overlay with things like that, show names and so on, right? So that's what it means. Yeah. So this is a unique platform that I will share a little bit about, but this is not the only one. There are a lot of platforms, and I have a few. I do have like accounts with some of these platforms. So along the way, I'll show some of these. So for the first 2 days, you notice even on Facebook, on the bottom right hand side, you see the word Zoom quite prominently, because I was using Zoom. So today I'm not using Zoom. I'm using this Restream. So yeah, that's all for today. Thank you for hopping on. Thank you for joining me live if you are live here. And thank you, Denise, for letting me know that at least it is working. The chat is working. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Good night. Bye.